Hi everyone, I'm William Whitlock, owner of Leviathan Nutrition, and today I want to talk to you in detail about TUDCA and the other main bile acids in the human body. Let's jump right into it. I have a few structures here on the board. So first, let me draw your attention to here. Right here we have cholesterol. Now cholesterol is what every bile acid in the human body is derived from originally. From cholesterol, we get synthesized in the liver the two primary bile acids in the human body, which are chenodeoxycholic acid and cholic acid. So if we notice here, chenodeoxycholic acid has two alpha hydroxyl groups, and here cholic acid has three alpha hydroxyl groups. This right here makes cholic acid the most hydrophilic or water-soluble bile acid. It's also used in medicine as a cholagogue and a cholorectic. This helps purge bile from the liver. So if we go back over here, we can see that, so these are the two primary bile acids. So from those, we determine the secondary bile acids from various bacterial metabolizing reactions. So right here, we'll have a bacterial metabolism in the colon, which results in a reduction of the hydroxyl group from position 7. Right here, the hydroxyl group gets removed. And this is another secondary bile acid in the human body known as lithocholic acid. So lithocholic acid is a secondary bile acid that is derived from the primary bile acid, chenodeoxycholic acid. Lithocholic acid has only one hydroxyl group at carbon position 3, making it the least hydrophobic bile acid, which means it's more fat soluble than most of the bile acids that we have in our body. And also high levels of lithocholic acid have been associated with colon, pancreatic, and esophageal cancer. So one way that we can help to mediate the amount of lithocholic acid buildup in our system is by supplementing with fiber, because dietary fiber binds to lithocholic acid, helping you be able to excrete it from the body, protecting you against colon cancer. So let's go over another secondary bile acid that's going to be basically result in TUDCA later down the line. Here we have cholic acid. We go through this bacterial metabolism, reducing the hydroxyl position on carbon 7, resulting in this structure, which has two hydroxyl groups on carbons 3 and 12. This is deoxycholic acid. It's the secondary bile acid derived from cholic acid. So from this structure now, we go through another bacterial metabolism, which basically removes this hydroxyl group on carbon 12 and adds an additional beta hydroxyl position on carbon 7. Now, it's important to note that this hydroxyl group here is positioned differently than all the other hydroxyl groups on these molecules. This hydroxyl group is in the same plane as these methyl groups versus being behind the structure as all the other hydroxyl groups are. I think this is one reason that UDCA has kind of more effective properties than most of the other bile acids in treating certain diseases. So going through that bacterial metabolism from deoxycholic acid, this is what gives us ursodeoxycholic acid, otherwise known as UDCA, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So UDCA is very well studied in preventing things like cholestasis, fatty liver disease, and many more diseases that we'll get to later. But I also want to go through this and note that from UDCA, we go through conjugation with either taurine or glycine, which results in our famous structure TUDCA, and also its glycine conjugate, GUDCA, also known as glyco-ursodeoxycholic acid. So down here, I mentioned the conjugation of UDCA with taurine or glycine. It is important to note that any one of these bile acids can be conjugated with either taurine or glycine, which will change this part of the structure right here, either to this, with a sulfonic acid group with a taurine molecule attached to it, or this part of the molecule here with glycine attached to the bile acid. Conjugation with either taurine or glycine changes the bile acid into a bile salt. This enhances the bioavailability of the now bile salt and helps it to be able to digest fats, vitamins, proteins, and carbohydrates. So now that we're familiar with the structures and all the structural differences and how exactly bile acids in the body are derived and how TUDCA is derived, I want to get into more specific details about TUDCA and its benefits and dosing and that sort of thing. Okay, so I just want to go over a little bit about how oral PEDs can raise liver enzyme values. Basically, it all happens because of this methyl group right here. This is a 17 alpha alkylated methyl group, and the goal of this methyl group is to prevent the oxidation of the compound into the inactive ketone form by 17 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. Because whenever you orally ingest these compounds going through the liver, the 17 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase is there to convert this OH group into an inactive ketone form of the molecule. But if we put this methyl group here on this molecule, that's going to prevent this enzyme from coming in and removing that hydrogen that otherwise would be there to convert it into an inactive form. So doing this, we are allowed to keep the active compound, but at some risk of liver damage. For example, we can use an injectable whenever we compare. This is Dianabol again. So here we have EQ, which is basically the unmethylated version of this compound, although it does have different effects in the body. So this is administered via injection. So whenever it's injected, it goes through an ester cleavage and is then taken to its active form as boldenone without the ester. But there is no 17 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase involved in this because it is not being orally taken. So I want to make another example of a more liver toxic compound such as Superdrol. And the reason this molecule is more liver toxic than most other oral PEDs is because it now has 1 and 2 alpha alkylated methyl groups versus just the one like we had back here. So we have 2 here, so we're going to expect more adverse effects on the liver. But again, the goal of this is to prevent the oxidation by 17 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase into an inactive form of the compound. So here we're going to dive a little bit deeper into TUDCA and just what kind of additional benefits it can be used for aside from the usual treatment of cholestasis and use for bodybuilders for PEDs and that sort of thing. So the first thing I want to look at is increasing insulin sensitivity. There was a study of 20 obese volunteers which used 1,750 milligrams of TUDCA daily for 4 weeks. The study resulted in the patients increasing muscle and liver tissue insulin sensitivity by as much as 30%. So this is one of the reasons that TUDCA can also be used for helping with fat loss and used for dieting and that sort of thing by its method of increasing insulin sensitivity. So also for hepatitis treatment, there was a study of 150 patients which all noticed a progressive 6-month improvement with daily use of TUDCA. TUDCA prevented the hepatitis B and D viruses from infecting cells. Now they tried this treatment with other bile salts. It turns out TUDCA was the most effective bile salt at preventing the virus from infecting cells. And lastly, this one to me is potentially one of the biggest benefits of TUDCA. It's TUDCA's ability to reduce the endoplasmic reticulum stress and increasing protein folding ability. Endoplasmic reticulum stress is linked to obesity, insulin action, and type 2 diabetes, as well as many other diseases. So TUDCA is able to reduce programmed cell death, otherwise known as apoptosis, in healthy cells. Now this is done by TUDCA preventing the mitochondria from sending enzymes to initiate that apoptosis or cell death in the endoplasmic reticulum. This makes TUDCA effective for treating diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, Lou Gehrig's, stroke, and also reducing damage from heart attack, because all of these diseases have to do with cell death. Now TUDCA being able to, in a way, somewhat prevent that cell death makes it very effective treatment for these types of things. Studies are still being done to document this, but we do know that TUDCA is effective at preventing protein unfolding, and it is effective at reducing endoplasmic reticulum stress. For all these studies discussed, as far as the treatment dose went, the treatment doses in these studies were anywhere from 1,000 to 1,750 milligrams of TUDCA daily for any period from 4 weeks up to 6 months. Now there is documentation showing TUDCA is safe for 6-month durations at doses up to 1,750 milligrams. Now also, I just want to recap my recommendation for bodybuilders, because the reason that bodybuilders are using TUDCA is usually in terms of liver protection and preventing a buildup of bile in the liver and reducing liver enzymes. So for that type of treatment, I would definitely recommend a dose of anywhere between 15 to 20 milligrams per kilogram of your own body weight. So here we have the structures of both TUDCA and UDCA. So here TUDCA, you can see we have the taurine group, which will enhance its availability, bioavailability. Its taurine group, the sulfonic acid group, will likely make TUDCA a better, more bioavailable molecule than its glycine conjugate Gutka, just due to the polarity of the sulfonic acid group on this side of the molecule. So again, cholestasis is a buildup of hydrophobic bile acids in the liver. TUDCA, being both a hydrophilic and hydrophobic bile acid, can compete with these harmful hydrophobic bile acids in the liver, exerting a kind of protective effect in the liver. So that's basically the mechanism by which TUDCA protects your liver and reduces those enzyme levels. And for other documented uses, TUDCA has been shown to increase insulin sensitivity in both skeletal muscle and in the liver by reducing the ER stress, basically by increasing protein folding, which reduces the unfolding protein response. And this is also basically the gist of why TUDCA is now being used in Alzheimer's research to prevent Alzheimer's disease by reducing the unfolding protein response in the endoplasmic reticulum. So as far as dosage goes, whenever it comes to preventing and treating cholestasis, this is also the dosage that I would recommend if you're using some kind of PED for physique enhancement and that kind of thing. Based on studies, the ideal dose seems to be around 15 to 20 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So let's say you're a 220-pound bodybuilder, this dose would equate to about 1,500 milligrams per day of TUDCA. The problem is that most people tend to not take enough TUDCA to see such drastic effects whenever it comes to lowering liver enzyme values. Okay, and as far as TUDCA goes for preventing liver damage when it comes to things like drinking alcohol, there was a study that showed that acetaldehyde, which is the harmful chemical that ethanol converts to in the liver, was shown to damage the outside, more polar part of the human hepatoma cell's membrane. So they used TUDCA to kind of reverse this effect, TUDCA and UDCA, and TUDCA basically reduced this effect drastically in the study, and while UDCA had a much less pronounced effect. So TUDCA is very effective at reducing liver damage done by drinking alcohol, but it's important to remember not to take TUDCA before drinking. You either take it after drinking or while drinking, because there are studies that show if you ingest TUDCA before you drink, it will actually cause more damage to your liver versus without taking it. So remember to take it either after or during. As far as safety of ingesting TUDCA long-term goes, there was a study shown using 1,500 milligrams per day over a course of 6 months, and the subjects reported no adverse effects. It's important to note that for TUDCA, the side effects are basically none. The only side effects, mild side effects there seem to be, is some sort of stomach discomfort in some people. In conclusion, what we talked about regarding bile acids today: bile acids are all formed from cholesterol. They're all derived from cholesterol. The two main bile salts in humans are cholic and chenodeoxycholic acids from cholesterol, and from those two main bile acids, all the other bile acids are formed, including lithocholic and deoxycholic acid. And from deoxycholic acid, you get UDCA. From UDCA, you either get TUDCA or GUDCA. Every bile acid can be conjugated with either taurine or glycine to form a bile salt. These bile salts are what are more effective at digesting fats. They're able to digest proteins and carbohydrates. They're actually essential for digesting those. And the difference in these bile acids, they differ only by the positioning and number of hydroxyl groups in their structure. The positioning and number of these hydroxyl groups will alter the structure to be either more hydrophobic, hydrophilic, and what kind of either protective or harmful effects they're going to have in the liver, and how good they are at solubilizing things like fats. Hopefully you guys found this information useful and applicable to you. If you would like to learn more, please check out our website, leviathannutrition.com. We also sell our own Leviathan TUDCA. It's 60 capsules, 300 milligrams each. I have test results on the website. I get this tested every few months for purity because a lot of TUDCA out there is faked. So if you want to go with a sure thing, this is the best TUDCA we have on the market as far as purity and all that goes. Also look out for our new nootropic supplement coming out mid-January, Zenith. It's going to be one of the most complete nootropics. I will go over the ingredients in the future as far as doses and all that. It's really going to be exciting. I hope you guys are ready for it. It's going to be a great deal. And if you have any questions for me personally, I do offer my services for coaching. You can DM me. My Instagram handle is WWhitlockFitness. So hopefully you guys found this video informative, and please like, share the video, subscribe to my channel, and look forward to incredible, informative content in the future coming out of this channel. Thank you.